The day Evelyn Moore moved into Willow Heights with her 16-year-old daughter, Chloe, she thought they'd finally found peace. Chloe had cerebral palsy, but her mind was sharp as a blade and her heart even brighter. Evelyn, a quiet, composed woman in her early 40s, worked long hours as a federal judge, but few in the neighborhood knew that. She kept her identity private to protect Chloe from unwanted attention. Their new home needed a wheelchair ramp, widened doorways, and safety bars. It wasn't a luxury, it was survival. That ramp, though, became the spark that lit a fire. Marla Kingsley, the 52-year-old president of the Homeowners Association, made her opinion known the first time she saw Chloe wheeling up it. "These kinds of changes ruin the aesthetic of our community," she huffed during a neighborhood meeting. The nods from other board members made it clear Marla's word was law around here. Soon after, Evelyn started finding notes taped to her door. "Remove that eyesore," one read. Another accused them of violating HOA codes. But none were as cruel as the words Marla spat at Chloe one afternoon. "Tell your mother to fix that ramp or there will be consequences." Chloe came home in tears, but Marla had no idea who she was provoking. The following Saturday, Evelyn knocked on Marla's door holding a file full of Chloe's medical documentation. "These modifications are necessary for my daughter's mobility," she said calmly, handing over letters from specialists and physical therapists. Marla didn't even bother to look. "Rules are rules," she replied coldly. Evelyn mentioned the Americans with Disabilities Act, but Marla rolled her eyes. "We'll see about that." The next day, Evelyn received a $500 fine for unauthorized exterior alterations. By the end of the week, 3 more fines followed, each more absurd than the last. At the monthly HOA meeting, Marla warned of a slippery slope if exceptions were allowed. "Property values will tank," another neighbor chimed in. Evelyn tried to speak, but was cut off. Walking home, she noticed people who once waved now looked away. Chloe stopped being invited to study groups. Even her science club video calls dwindled. "Maybe we should move again," she whispered one night, her eyes hollow. Evelyn considered using her position as a federal judge to intimidate Marla, but she didn't. Instead, she filed formal discrimination complaints with the county under her real nomino titles, no warnings. But Marla wasn't finished. The Willow Heights annual barbecue was approaching. Evelyn considered staying home, but Chloe insisted. "We belong here," she said, wearing a sky-blue dress that matched her hopeful smile. At the park, most people avoided them, but a few stopped by with awkward small talk. Chloe rolled herself over to the drinks table, carefully poured a cup of lemonade, and turned around only for her wheelchair to snag the tablecloth. Marla had been strutting nearby, flaunting her cream-colored designer dress. The lemonade splashed across her chest, leaving a bright yellow streak down the front. "I'm so sorry," Chloe gasped. "You did that on purpose, you little freak," Marla shrieked. Her eyes darted wildly until they landed on a maintenance cart. She grabbed a bottle labeled in red, "Danger corrosive." "Let's see how you like being ruined," she screamed and hurled the liquid straight at Chloe's face. The moment shattered like glass. Chloe's scream echoed through the park as the drain cleaner splashed across her face, neck, and shoulders. She fell from her wheelchair, writhing and sobbing. Evelyn raced to her, pulling off her jacket to blot the burning chemical. "It burns, Mom. It burns," Chloe wailed. People stood frozen in horror except for Mrs. Delaney, a retired nurse, who finally shouted, "Call 911. Get water now." 2 men sprinted to the hose as Evelyn cradled her daughter's convulsing body. Marla stood nearby, the empty bottle dangling from her hand. "She ruined my dress," she whispered, dazed, as sirens wailed in the distance. At the hospital, the burn unit doctor delivered the gut punch. 3rd-degree chemical burns covering over 20% of Chloe's body. "She'll need emergency surgery and many more after that," he said gently. Evelyn collapsed into the nearest chair, barely breathing. "Well, will she have a face?" she whispered. "We'll do everything we can." For 3 sleepless days, Evelyn didn't leave Chloe's side. On the 4th day, Detective Aria Monroe arrived. "Has Marla Kingsley been arrested?" Evelyn asked. "She claims she grabbed the wrong bottle in a panic," the detective replied. "That's a lie," Evelyn hissed. "People saw her do it deliberately. We're having trouble getting witnesses to talk." "They're scared," Monroe admitted. Mrs. Delaney was the only one brave enough to speak out. "That bottle had warning labels all over it," she told police. She knew exactly what she was doing. Meanwhile, Marla called an emergency HOA meeting. It was a horrible accident, she said, her tone saccharine. But if we let this get out of hand, our property values will suffer. We must stand together. 2 weeks later, Marla walked into the courthouse for her preliminary hearing wearing a designer suit, flanked by her attorney. She's being unfairly targeted, the lawyer told reporters. Miss Kingsley has given 2 decades of service to this community. But the moment they stepped inside, Marla froze. What's she doing here? She whispered. There, at the prosecutor's table, sat Evelyn Moreno, longer hiding. The district attorney stood beside her, taking notes. That's just the victim's mother, her lawyer muttered. No, that's Judge Moore, Marla said, color draining from her face. In the trial that followed, Chloe testified by video from her hospital bed. Despite scars crisscrossing her face, her voice was clear. It felt like my skin was melting, she said. I said sorry. It was an accident. But she hated me. Medical experts confirmed the damage. Surveillance footage showed Marla reading the bottle label before throwing it. Other neighbors finally came forward with chilling stories. Poisoned service dogs, vandalized accessibility equipment, endless harassment. After just 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. Guilty on all counts, the forewoman announced. The judge sentenced Marla Kingsley to 15 years in prison and ordered her to pay $2.5 million in damages. The HOA board was dissolved by court order for enabling a pattern of discrimination. 1 month later, Evelyn opened her door to find neighbors standing on her lawn, this time with tools, flowers, and casseroles. We came to help, Mrs. Delaney said simply. Over the next week, they rebuilt Chloe's ramp, planted accessible garden beds, and raised over $100,000 for ongoing medical costs. With part of the settlement, Evelyn founded the Chloe Moore Foundation for Disability Justice. Chloe returned to school months later and soon after began sharing her journey through a vlog that went viral. If my story helps one person feel seen, she told her followers, then it's worth it. Willow Heights changed. The new HOA emphasized inclusion. Ramps, braille signs, and service animals became part of the norm. Chloe became the voice of the community she once felt silenced by. One evening, sitting in their garden, Chloe turned to her mom. Do you think we should thank her? She asked softly. Evelyn looked stunned. Thank the woman who did this to you. Chloe smiled, her scarred face shining in the dusk. Not for what she did, but for what came after. Evelyn took her daughter's hand and whispered, You're the bravest person I know. And as the sun set over Willow Heights, it wasn't just light that filled the neighborhood, it was something new, something stronger. Justice.